Okay, so welcome to another great podcast by Rite New Zealand Limited, and we called these series the Right Trackers to ensure that people are on the right track in regards to their decisions that they make for buying insurance or buying a valuable asset such as a house or a commercial building. And for that particular reason, we are interviewing a very, how can one say, long-term family friend, which goes back even before yours truly was born, and also before Stephen was definitely born, to the point that I even knew Stephen when he was born. So we go back quite a way. So welcome, Stephen, and thank you for participating in this presentation. And what I'd like to do is just, first of all, highlight to the people that are listening as to what your actual background is. And I know it's varied because you're an entrepreneur from the UK, although you were born in New Zealand, and you've had various, how can one say, businesses. So you're quite well aware of the business environment.
Yes.
And you are out there now looking after and ensuring that people protect their investments. In fact, even before they put the money down, to make certain they're getting the right value for money. So Stephen, tell us a little bit more about your background and why is it that you are the most beneficial person to contact in regards to this product and service that you provide?
Yeah, okay. Like as you say, I've had a number of different businesses over the years. I left Auckland Grammar and dragged up in the mean streets of Remuera, and then became a customs agent, and then travelled for many years overseas and had travel businesses. Logistics is probably the core of what I've been doing most of my life, and then the last 5 odd years I've been involved in sort of the homes as respect to asbestos surveying, meth testing, and making sure that especially rental places and due diligence compliance is met.
Okay.
So properties meet the Residential Tenancy Act.
Okay. Noting that you're an entrepreneur and you just, I suppose, when you set up your business, you just saw an opportunity. But what's your passion that underlies this decision to go into this particular sector of the risk industry?
Yeah, okay. I think everyone needs a reason to work rather than just for the dollar, And what does drive me for New Zealand Healthy Homes is the fact that people's houses are homes, so they need to be safe. They need to be warm, dry, and fit for purpose. And there's a lot of non-compliant, unhealthy houses in New Zealand, and that's an issue we really need to think about, especially during the virus effect. So I get a kick out of making sure properties are safe for tenants, compliant for owners, and if they can bring them up to standard, then that adds value to the homeowner as well.
Yeah, I suppose the other way of looking at it is that you were in the travel industry in the UK, and you were providing guidance to people for where they should travel to around Europe, etc. So you, in effect, you are still very much involved with the journey that people take in buying a home. So
yeah,
it's still
sharing advice.
Sorry?
It's a journey. It's a journey. Yes.
Yeah. So you're actually now at the crucial part of that journey when people make that decision to buy that house. And you know, it's an expensive purchase. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, people sometimes neglect the due diligence side of pre-purchase. They like the house, they've made the deal, they think that's good value, but you've got to look at some key things. You might be spending in $1-2 million, biggest spend of your life. You know, just spend some time to make sure that there's no contaminants in the house, that it's there's no asbestos issues.
Okay.
You know, you can get a building report, but there's other aspects you should look at as well. More the healthy side of it, you know.
Okay. So
with sale and purchase, sale and purchase agreements changed recently. There's a new clause where you can opt in for a toxicology test, which relates to methamphetamine mostly.
okay, can we come back to that, because that's a really important point. So in your time in this particular industry, what have you seen that really sort of concerns you or bothers you the most in regards to people making the decision to buy their home?
I think with regard to methamphetamine contamination, there's been a huge arc in the way it's been looked at and the way it's dealt with, and has got a lot of bad press. It's something that still has come a long way and still needs to be thought of as a very relevant thing to do. When it first started out, the Herald horror story, you know, painted the picture of people having to take walls off houses, and you know, through to the point where it ended up being, you don't need to test, which in effect that was completely inaccurate. The industry started out with people who had a conflict of interest in the result, i.e. they were doing the cleanup as well. But then a New Zealand standard was introduced, and which gave definitions of who was to do what, how testing was done. So there's some security in the outcome of lab results and the process in general, the methodology.
Okay.
Also, there's NZQAs in meth testing. So there's a lot of legitimacy to the whole thing. There's also a national body for meth testers. So that is something that has probably been a really difficult process to go through as far as getting that across to the public, especially for pre-purchase.
Okay.
It is a poison, and there's responsibilities, especially if you're going to rent the place out, or if you're going to live in it. It can make you sick.
Yeah. So one of the questions is you're making going down that road of saying certification is really, really important within your industry, but also making certain that whoever is selected has that appropriate certification.
Definitely, that's a key aspect to my consultancy, is the fact that the three aspects that I do: methamphetamine, asbestos testing, healthy homes assessments, that in all instances that you're qualified to carry out that assessment or testing, and have no conflict in the outcome. For example, I don't do asbestos cleanup, I don't do methamphetamine clear up, and for healthy homes, I don't sell heat pumps or insulation or anything else, you know.
Yeah.
And you'll find, especially with healthy homes assessments, that's in that first phase where it's new to the market, and a lot of people are jumping in there. We've got no qualifications at all, except they sell asbestos, heat pumps or insulation, etc. And that is a problem, really. So we'll see that rise to when it first appears in a tenancy tribunal, and they'll say who did the assessment, and then we say Fred from the insulation shop, and they'll go, oh, okay.
Yeah. Conflict
So
of
independent,
interest.
no conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Qualified.
Yeah.
Those three things.
Okay. So confusion in the industry, Stephen. About, what was it, 12 months ago, 18 months ago, there was a lot of confusion out there as to what was required for this testing, and the government got involved, etc. Can you just go through that?
Okay. Okay, chronologically, there was a New Zealand standard introduced in 2017, which outlined a contamination level of 1.5 micrograms per 100 square centimetres. Also, how the testing was to be done and by whom. Then the Labour government came in, and the Minister of Housing, Mr. Phil Twyford, it wasn't actually the Minister of Health, but Housing, requested from his science advisor a question of, do you think the level's too low? And Gluckman said, it probably is. It could well be. And the second question was asked was, how high could be safe? And Gluckman informed him it could be as high as 15 micrograms. And then that was immediately taken as, okay, we'll use 15. So 15 is used by tenancy tribunals, and they also allow people back into state houses up to 15. Of course, that's caused a lot of confusion because what is takes priority, in New Zealand standard or an opinion? Now, when the Residential Tenancy Act was upgraded last year, they were expecting to put a level into law, an act, which is the RTA. Of course, you can't have anything in an act unless it's proven, because it's a law. So then there was a bit of, what do? We're going to ESR to confirm this level or not? And of course, then at that point, the Chris Farfoy was now like, oh, okay, what if 15 that we've been using is wrong? What if 10 safe? What is 2 safe? So then there was a lack of enthusiasm to find out what the real figure is. So subsequently, the whole thing's let drift since Mr. Twyford has gone to other places.
So, Stephen, what is
so at the moment,
safe? What is safe?
New Zealand standard. Insurance companies take New Zealand standard, 1.5 micrograms, and if you have a contamination, they will cover you to get that remediated to that point. And so you'll find that everyone except the state houses and tenancy tribunals won't blame a tenant if it's over 15. But the landlord will still have to clear the house up to get it down to 1.5.
That's very confusing, Stephen, because a lot of houses are insured, of course. So the insurance companies following the New Zealand safety standards, which they should do.
Yes.
And they say that anything below 1.5 is going to be covered. Anything over,
over 1.5,
yep,
they consider contaminated, and they'll cover.
Anything over 1.5 is covered. Okay. But they're also saying that, if I got this right, that it's only if it's under 1.5, that is safe, correct?
That's what they say. Yeah.
Because that's
the tenancy tribunal. The tenancy tribunals are using a level of 15.
Yeah, but there's a gap. Am I right in saying there's a gap?
There's a tenfold gap between what New Zealand standard thinks is safe and what the government has used as an opinion that will allow people into state houses and tenants.
All right, so let's look at it from the insurance company's perspective. There's still a gap, right?
Yep.
Because the insurance companies are now saying, well, the New Zealand safety standard says 1.5 for it to be safe. And yet they're also covering landlords for the cost of eliminating the meth for anything over 1.5 to how high? 15?
To any level. 1.5 and up, they'll cover. Yeah, at 1.5 and up, they'll cover. There's no liability on a tenant if it's 14 and a half, if they've introduced it, which is wrong. But basically, insurance companies believe in facts, as you know, John, and they will go with what's known, what the science is so far. The rest of the world, right, uses a range of levels ranging from 0.5 up to about 3. Okay, So when the New Zealand standard was introduced and developed, we didn't actually do our own research. We just researched other people's research. The ESR, this is.
Right.
And they came to the conclusion that 1.5 was probably a reasonable standard.
Okay.
So grabbing a level of 15, some may say was done to gain access to a lot of state houses that were vacant, that were contaminated. But that's just an opinion.
Right. Okay. Well, we won't go down that particular road. So,
No.
So this testing normally applies to residential homes, right? But should
Not
it?
only.
So it also applies to commercial buildings.
Yes, you can do commercial buildings. I've done commercial buildings, which is really important. Probably sometimes more important because there's a lot more health and safety obligations upon a building owner or the person in charge, PCBU. So I have done commercial properties, boats and cars and trucks.
Yeah, because that was going to be my next question, vehicles, whereby you get a lot of people who are into trading meths. They may not do the cooking themselves in the house, but they're definitely using the car to transport it, even though it's in a little plastic bag or whatever. But the meth contaminates everything, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, methamphetamine is a crystal, and when it's smoked, and it's a soluble crystal, and when it's smoked by heat, it turns into a vapor, which then once it hits the surface, it cools and attaches to it. Okay, so quite often the cars that I've tested that have been positive have been a situation where someone was smoking in the car, because it was like away from the house, it was a private place, some such thing like that. So, and when it contaminates a vehicle, you can't clean it. It's too hard. Both those vehicles that I've had positive were written off.
Yeah.
Because the vapor gets all through the vehicle, through all the air vents. There's too many cavities, too many soft surfaces. It's not practical to decontaminate it.
Is it, just a quick little question that went through my mind, would it be appropriate for a car dealer to actually have a certification on a car that they've got on their lot saying this has been tested for meth and has been
They could do. They could do. One of these cases I had, it was a lease car, and the lease company had got the car back, and they had concerns about it before, and they wanted to make sure it was not contaminated before they released it out to someone. So they did the right thing, and they established the car did have contamination. The evidence that led them to believe that might be was the fact that they found 3 glass pipes in the glove box. So
well, that's pretty good evidence that there's a problem.
Not bad. Glass barbecue.
Yeah. So, but also what you're doing is going to lead into how you could actually apply your testing to COVID-19. Is that an appropriate question to ask? Can you accept it?
I wouldn't want to. Mainly because, once again, I'll only be involved in fields that I have a qualification in. So any medical side, I would steer clear of until there was, if they brought out some qualification or training in how to test a house for COVID-19, and I did that, then I might look at it. Just as with methamphetamine, I've stayed away from testing in the workplace, like for employers, like urine testing, etc.
Right. Urine testing you won't do, but smoking meth you will do.
Well, properties, yes, people know.
Yeah. Okay. So, so tell me a little bit more about the contracts. You said that there's a change in real estate contracts for this testing.
This came about. This came about towards the end of last year. Sale and purchase agreements, which everyone probably has come across from time to time if they bought or sold a house. They are updated quite often, and I think they're up to version 10 at the moment, or maybe even more. And they've introduced a tick box, an option to require toxology test, which really means meth test. But it could include, you could test for lead in the paint or other such things. But so the reason why they put that in was because they still see that it is a large problem, and methamphetamine has never been a larger problem in New Zealand than it is right now. The use of it is very high. It's had a big spike in supply and the drop in price. This was brought about mainly by the returning New Zealand 501 criminals, as they call them, who've been kicked out of Australia. And a lot of those gangs are forming up in New Zealand, the Comancheros, the Rebels, etc. So they're looking to establish territory with the use of cheap, or in some cases even free, methamphetamine, which also causes houses to be contaminated and people to get shot. So it's a bigger problem than ever, even if the government doesn't really want to think about it too much.
Wow.
But insurance companies and real estate agents and people with business minds and practical knowledge are addressing it.
Interesting. So I'm going to go back to the COVID-19, and there's now, I suppose, a wave of enthusiasm within businesses to have complete testing for COVID-19. Do you believe that a number of business owners will consider extending that out to test for meths throughout the business arena as well? So your testing will be in line with COVID-19, like on a menu tick box.
I would hope so. I mean, all health and safety issues, we should be diligent about. I think New Zealand's had a little bit of a Shelby Rite in the whole field, and not had an enthusiasm to want to look under the rocks, as it were. But I think maybe with this virus, it might awaken us to be more vigilant in all kinds of things and aspects in society.
Okay. So for somebody who wants to be a prospective purchaser, do you expect that a prospective buyer is going to be more interested in having the results of the meth testing now to a greater extent than they were before?
Yes, depends on the individual. What I am seeing is vendors doing it, taking the front foot on the whole aspect of it. Because if a vendor can have me around and have a meth test and have a report to show that it's been tested and is clear, it's removing a hurdle to the sale. In the old days, vendors and real estate agents, or the vending agent especially, like, oh, don't get a meth test, don't get a meth test, it could be a problem. But now there's more of an attitude of, let's get it done. So we use it as a sales pitch, assisting sales, like a limb report, or have something available to show that, yeah, it is clear, it is clean. Take the hurdle away.
Do you
so
think
that's kind of a trend.
Do you think buyers are going to be wanting to have that question asked more than they were before, prior
I think
to
so.
the COVID-19?
Yeah, I think that is an effect we'll have. Why take the risk if you can negate it?
Yeah. Okay. So I want to go back to this contract thing again. Recently, there's been changes to the real estate contract whereby a contract could either fall at the last hurdle because the buyer couldn't arrange the finances. Okay. That option has now been taken out because it's now built into the actual contract of sale. It's not an option. It's not subject to finance being arranged. So
Yeah.
from the meth testing, is that a subclause, like saying subject to a meth test, or is it included within the total contract?
I mean, you can write things into those contracts, and I'm not a lawyer, but if you were subject to toxicology/meth test, you'd want that completed before you complete.
Okay. Usually, Stephen, how long would it take for a complete clean out of the house? Hello?
Hold on, just lost you for a second.
Yeah, you're back. Can you hear
Good.
me?
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So,
The last question. What was the last question?
So how long, Stephen, from the time of you doing the testing to the time of the results to the time of the house being completely cleaned, what time period are we normally looking at?
I can normally get to any house in Greater Auckland within a day, and get the lab reports, my report back to you within 2 days. The key to getting a quote for meth cleaning is in the detailed testing. You need to know exactly how much you've got in what room. With that information, you can then send that to contamination companies who could then accurately quote. And if we have that information, yeah, they can usually do a house within a week.
That's just their preliminary testing, yeah?
No, they could probably, I could do a full test and have the results back in 2 days. And then with the full test results, they could do a house within a week, and you get it back within 2. So end to end, the whole process you could get done 2-3 weeks.
Okay. But
if everything goes smooth.
Yeah, but then if they find out that there's a meth contamination, then the delay could be quite dramatic.
Well, that's me testing, finding a problem, and having it remediated.
Okay.
But it can be held up. For example, if they clean the house, then they say the job's done. The next process is to come back and retest it to make sure that they have achieved the cleaning down to the level below 1.5 micrograms. If they haven't, then the cleaners are instructed to go back and do it again.
Okay.
And again sometimes, and it's under that level.
All right. So, Stephen, why is your business so different to other providers? What's the added value that you can provide when you compare yourself with another supplier?
Really, because I'd say that I got into this from being a property owner, from being a landlord as well. So I also understand it from both sides of the bar, as it were. I understand what it's like to own a property and find out you may have a problem with it, or be a landlord and want to make sure that I'm achieving compliance with my rental properties.
Yeah.
So, it's just really service as well, I think. I mean, I find quite often a lot of people come into this from being a tradie and then looking to do something else because they've got a bad back or a bad knee. And bless the tradies, they're not known for the customer service. And I come from areas where customer service in a logistics team, is probably the highest standard you have to achieve.
Or the travel, or even the travel industry.
And indeed in travel industry. So
yeah,
I think I gain a great advantage when I call people back straight away and take action straight away. So, yeah.
Okay. And one could also say that you're quite empathetic to their needs and requirements.
Oh, definitely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm on their side.
It must be quite an interesting conversation when you're talking to a landlord and say your tenant's been cooking and smoking meth in their house for the past 6-7 months. Were you aware of that? Which raises an interesting point. What are the property managers doing in regards to making certain that this doesn't happen, and how they report it back to the landlord?
Okay, property managers. There's another whole podcast on that if you wanted. They range from They
Yeah.
range from not wanting to know anything about it because it might be a problem, through to some of the better ones, which I really only like to deal with, who, when they take on a property, they tell them we will be meth testing unless you opt out of it. And you need to sign here to show you're opting out of it. Okay. So they're the best ones, obviously. So they have a policy where test in and out. So when a tenant moves out, so it's clean in, clean out. When the tenant vacates, we test straight away to make sure the property is A, clean for the next person, and we can tell the next person that it's clear. And we also tell the next tenant that we'll test when you leave as well. So that creates a little bit of, it's prevention, as it were.
Why can't they actually test or use their insight or instinct during the tenancy so that there cannot be any further problems or challenges? And then they should also tell their client, the property owner. Why don't they do that?
Well, the best way is if you have a baseline test before a tenant moves in,
Yes.
and then you have another test when they move out,
Yes.
we can establish a timeline of liability, okay?
Yes.
Which our friends in the insurance company love.
Yes.
But also, if there's a tenancy which can go bad, which does happen, might have a perfectly good tenant, and then someone moves into the property and they notify that there's an issue of potential in the house, then they do have the ability to serve notice on the tenants that we will come and test. So that can be done. But if you don't have a level prior to them moving in, you've got to use circumstantial evidence to say that it was probably them that did it.
Okay, but from what you were just saying, I kind of detect that intermediary or intermediate step is not really taken. They do the step at the beginning, they do the step at the end, but they don't actually do the step in the middle. And I would have thought doing the step in the middle would have been far greater value.
Well, ideally, the best policy is you do clean in, clean out. And then if you have any reason to suspect, you can come and test during a tenancy as well.
Yes. So how many property owners, or sorry, real estate companies would you say existed within New Zealand that are proactive in this area?
Property managers, I'd probably say that half of them would have some sort of a meth testing policy involved. Some would do it on request. And then there's some that don't do it at all. They don't want to know about it.
Okay, so 50%.
As far as real estate agents for sale and purchase, you have two sorts of agents for sale and purchase. You have a vendor's agent and quite often buyer's agents.
Yeah.
Vendor's agents tend traditionally to not want to look under any rocks in case they find something, but that is changing, as I discussed before. Buyer's agents are more keen. They're there to represent a buyer, and they want to know if they're going to buy a house with a problem.
Okay.
And the other aspect of it is if you're a purchaser, that's all good news. If you get a meth test on a house you're about to buy and there's no meth, that's good. If you do a test on a house you're going to buy and there is meth, that's good too, because now you've got a negotiation tool. Once agents know that the place has got a meth problem, they are bound to disclose it to other purchasers, and usually they'll run away. But they can then contact someone like me, and I can project manage them through the whole process of the cleanup and what to do and how to do it. You'll generally get more of a discount than it costs to have it remediated.
Right. So let's go back to these property managers again. Okay. 50% are proactive and will do the meth testing. Then you've got what, 25% or 50% of the remaining 50 who may do it if they're asked. And then you've got the remaining 25% who just don't really care. So
yeah, I mean that's anecdotal, these statistics, mainly
yeah,
because in my business, I like to work professional people.
yeah,
So I like to work obviously with property managers who take a very proactive stance on it, as in, we will meth test your property unless you opt out of it. Sign
yeah.
here to say you don't want to.
Okay.
Because they generally have the idea that if you aren't the kind of landlord that wants to spend a couple of $100 to ensure A, the place is safe, and B, send the message that we do test, they get a better tenant as well.
Yeah,
So everyone wants to work with professionals.
of course.
Occasionally I will get calls from property managers who are like, "Oh my God, I've got a big problem. Can you help me, Steve?" And I'll go, "Did you test before they moved in?" You go, "No." Okay, well, you're on shaky ground. I
Yeah.
have done tests. I've done a test for these dodgy guys, or they appeared to be not my normal client. And I said, "Why are you guys are tenants. You're renting the place. What am I doing here?" And they were like, "We've been smoking meth in this house for the last 6 months. We're about to leave, and we want your report so we can go back to the landlord and say, you've rented as a contaminated premises and it's not fit for a habitation, and we want our rent back." So I said, get another tester, obviously. But there are people out there doing that, so be warned.
Interesting, eh? Interesting. So, Stephen, if somebody wanted to use your services, landlord or a prospective buyer of a property, how would they contact you? Where do they find you? And what is the time period from that initial contact to you getting out there and doing the work?
Okay, my business is New Zealand Healthy Homes, and you can find me on the interweb. You can send me an email, steve@nzhealthyhomes.com, or 021 132 4577. And anywhere in Greater Auckland, I can usually come out the next day or even same day if need be. I can come out on weekends. From time of taking the samples, I can get the report back to you with lab report in 2 working days. And if there's a problem, my service doesn't really end there. I'm there to help you project manage it through any issues that arise from the testing. And I'm also available just to pick up the phone and, I'm a property manager, I'm around at a property and I noticed some strange chemical bottles outside. What should I do? So I'm your phone a friend, when it comes to asbestos, meth, or game shows.
So, Stephen, as always, it's really, really great talking to you. So that's Stephen Hegh, spelled with an Hegh, and you're based in Auckland, and you own New Zealand Healthy Homes Limited. And
Yep.
thank you for giving us the update on what's happening in this particular sector of the housing market, but also in the risk industry within New Zealand. And as always, it's great talking to you. So thank you very much, Stephen, and we'll catch up again soon, no doubt.
Yes, my
Thank you.
pleasure, John.
All
My
right.
pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Hello, my name is John Barley from Rite New Zealand Limited. I trust that you've enjoyed the last video that you've been watching on the subject of insurance, whatever video you've chosen. Maybe it was the marine cargo, maybe it was the classic car insurance, or 4x4, or travel insurance. At the end of the day, they're all videos to give the viewer a better understanding and a clearer sense of guidance as to what is most appropriate for them in the world of insurance. If you wish to find out more about Rite New Zealand Limited, we invite you to look at our website, www.ritetrack.co.nz. We have created a website which we believe is quite comprehensive, and within that website you will actually see that there are modules that are available to help business owners have a better understanding and grasp of the risks which are in business. We've actually got Brian Falco talking about how he actually changed his business and made it into a success by having a better understanding of the need to have beneficial relationships with his people within his firm. It's a great set of videos, and it's so well priced at $125 plus GST for a series of modules and educational system to give better results for business owners trying to find that point of difference that businesses now so eagerly look for in a climate or an environment which is so, how can one say, challenging. So thank you very much for watching, and if you wish to have any further conversations or wish to ask more about what RiteTrack can supply to your business, please phone John on 027 289 3162 or 0938 30. That's 09 239 3830 or solutions@ritetrack.co.nz. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, see you later. Bye-bye.